It's just a repetitive cycle. Whether you're talking about what's going on with the protests and the riots, or you're talking about being an entrepreneur. If you don't have a path of what you're trying to achieve, you will create mass chaos and you will live in uncertainty and anger, and it will flourish.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Well, welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Today we have an amazing episode. I mean, it's going to be a hot topic because we got a woman that's full of energy, full of passion, and her fire burns through. As a matter of fact, I can feel it right now. This is Miss Dani Rocco. How you doing, Miss Rocco?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you.
Man, girl, you're just on fire. I see you everywhere. I'm just like, man, I can't keep up with you. And then I love the fact that no matter where I see you, I always see images, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, no matter where I see you, you always have that American flag in back of you. And I tell you what, I admire that about you. And we need more people like that in our country, because right now our country needs more heroes. I'll tell you that.
Yes, I agree. You know, it runs hard and it runs deep to be just the whole patriotism. You know, I'm so grateful. I feel completely blessed that I was born here. You know, like what a gift, just right there.
Yes. Sometimes we take that for granted, don't we?
Well, we do, because, I had a timer to make sure I didn't forget this. But we do. We take a lot of things, for granted, when you can just wake up and you're here, you're breathing. There's no one knocking down your door. You can do and say whatever it is that you want. You forget that it's not always like that everywhere.
Yeah, well, I'm already I'm telling you, you're on fire. You got me off cue here. I forgot. Well, I love to let my guests introduce themselves. So the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, our audience doesn't know who you are. So tell us about who you are before we get deeper, because I already forgot to introduce you. And that's no bueno, man. That's no bueno. So tell our Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, our audience, who is Dani Rocco that's on fire, that carries this flag with her all over the place, no matter where she goes?
Well, a very complex, eclectic person, first of all. But what I do is I have spent, through my life, all of these different changes. We don't have enough time to go into it, but right now I service our military. That is where my heart is, through relationship coaching and life insurance. And I have made myself this eclectic little business that basically every day I wake up serving in some form. Now, you don't have to be in the military or a veteran, but that is my niche. That is my heart. That is hence the flag and, what I feel is my purpose.
Wow. Well, what I like about you is I don't meet too many people that have as much passion. And I'm not saying that I'm the most passionate person, but let me tell you, rival me. And I love that about you, because when it's like attracts like, and the moment I saw, I was like, hey, who was that Carlos did that interview with? I said, I need to get on her show. And it just like, we clicked, and I've been following now on Instagram. And I'm like, she's the real deal, man. Like Dani Rocco is a real deal. Where do you draw this passion? And we're not even going to get into the business and life, but where do you just get this passion from that you just see no matter what you do, Daniel? Where do you get it from?
I think it came from, there's been some major issues. I don't want to say issues, but they were like blocks, tragedies in my life. And from each of those, I was so grateful to overcome them. And the last one was, I was in a car accident and I should have died. And from there, when you see that light, when you feel that presence and there is no fear behind you, it's hard. It's hard. I'm going to make this sound like really simplistic. Like I woke up and yay, it was not like that. It was dark and scary. But now that I've learned to overcome it, my physical challenges, the mental challenges that came with it, it is a blessing. And every relationship and every person, they're just blessings in your life that are there for a reason. And that's really where the fire comes from. I am just thankful to be here. Now I fall a lot. I am not perfect by any means, but
Dude, don't worry about it. I fall every day.
Yeah, I have the foresight to be like, that car probably could have been handled better than I did, and not repeat it, build from it.
Yeah. So you said you were in a car accident. Is that what happened?
I was. I guess it was, 5.5 years ago now. And I think it was God's little way of waking me up. He gives us these little taps on the shoulders a lot, like, hey, I don't think you're on the right path. And I'm a very stubborn Italian woman. So I chose to ignore it and thought I could control everything. And let me tell you, you have control over nothing. He has a greater plan. And I just, I fainted or passed out or something happened while I was driving. I mean, that's never happened to me before. There's no medical reason behind it. And I ended up sideways in the woods in a tree.
So let me ask you, that sounds like a pretty hard time in life where somebody could lose their confidence. Did you lose your confidence in that moment?
Oh, yes. I lost every single bit of who I was, because I was a professional ballerina. I was an athlete. My whole business at the time was in the athletic world. I worked out constantly. My husband and I, everything we did was kind of fast, speedboats, motorcycles, just everything about me had to do with my physical ability. And it was ripped away, paralyzed in bed, in and out of consciousness. To this day, I'm still not the person I was. So I was nothing. I felt like nothing.
Wow. That's, for somebody to say that they felt like nothing. Those are pretty powerful words, what you just said, Danielle. Elaborate a little bit more on that. Because I feel like right now, there's people that don't feel like nothing. And something that I'm working on, because I'm getting my new community together. Actually, we're working on the branding. We're about to release it here in probably a couple of days. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be next week or the following week. But in my community, it's going to be about you matter. And what you just said shows me that I'm on the right path of what God put in my heart, because too many people realize that they think they don't matter. And for you to say that you were nothing, that's hard for anybody to how can I say it? I couldn't see anybody for them to describe themselves that way. And for you to say that, elaborate more on that, because I think somebody might be feeling that way. And the fact that you came out of that and you're the amazing powerhouse, the passionate woman that you are, that's just a glimmer of hope for that person right now. And I want my audience right now, get some pen and paper. I always say this, something magical happens when you put pen to paper. So take some notes on what Danielle's going to say, because she's going to drop some truth bombs that are going to help you to really elevate your life and get you stuck out of that rut, out of that mindset that you're nothing, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, it was an eye-opener of what I thought, or who I saw myself as. I saw myself as this athlete. I saw myself as this good Italian daughter taking care of the family and the family business. I saw myself as I'm not going to lie, I was a little stuck in my head at that time. Like, I had a nice body, I had blonde hair, I was active, I was bubbly, but I really was just a shell. I was kind of miserable in that state. And then when it was all taken from me, that I was not an athlete. I was not this great Italian daughter doing the best I could at the business, because I physically could. And I ran the business in and out of consciousness. Nobody knew, but I knew I wasn't, I wasn't there. I didn't feel like a good wife. I didn't feel, the intimacy between my husband and then there wasn't any, because I was like this vegetable, and that took a toll on me, where it ate at me. I was in physical pain, like severe pain. And so everything I had spent, how old was I then? 5 years ago, like 38 years developing, was not there anymore. So I literally was nothing. I had no value. I had no purpose because everything I put value and purpose in was gone. Because the value and purpose had nothing to do with me spiritually. It had to do with everything that I could give or what I could portray, the perception of who I was. And so it became a very, very dark time in my life. And, I'm very blessed. I have an amazing husband. I mean, we've had some hard times and God has knocked our boat over, but we've grown stronger through it.
And what you're saying resonates with me because I remember 18 years old, President's Day is when I tried to take my life. Mm-hmm. And I always remember when I really got the first time to look in the mirror, and it was a gunshot wound that I shot myself with. So it was a gunshot wound. And since it was a low caliber handgun, it ricocheted all in the inside of my intestines. So the reason I say that is because all in the inside I was infected. So they didn't close me up and stitch me up. They kind of left me open, and I had clamps with wires that were holding my abdominal area together. And I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, what in the hell did I do to myself? Like, you saying that, I think at that moment in my life, I never really thought about it, Daniel, but I think I felt like nothing. I felt like, look at you, dude. Like, what did you do to yourself? So I definitely understand how I can relate to what you're saying. And it's not a good feeling when you're used to seeing yourself fit, and then you see your own body, your own torso. Really, like, I mean, I don't want to say I was mauled, but I was pretty cut up. So how did you start pulling yourself out of that black hole? What was the first two things that you started to do that Danielle said, okay, well, I'm here, I'm in pain, and I can't change what's happened, but give us two things that our audience can take away of, because I get it, man. I get it. It's car accidents are no joke. They could be deadly. And what did you start doing to pull you out of that black hole to really have you be who you are today? Because you're awesome. I love who you are.
I think about this stuff all the time, and really, I can't even put my finger on what it was, but I think there was this one moment that I remember that my husband and I we were camping, we were away for like a weekend, and it was just us. And I confessed, so that was probably it. I confessed to him how depressed I was. Like I was like, I'm not going to live. You can take care of the kids without me because I'm no wife. I'm no mother. You guys deserve so much more. That confession, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that was the first turning point, that I confessed it outside of me, out of my own brain. There's something when you actually speak what you're thinking instead of just hearing it inside your head. And the response from him, that was probably the turning, like that I didn't have it in me to give myself value, but he gave me that value at that time when I needed it. Does that make sense to you?
No,
sometimes
definitely.
You don't have the strength and you need to borrow someone else's strength in the moment.
Well, something magical happens when people open up, and I want y'all to hear that, audience, because this is powerful. What she's saying right now is the healing process didn't start till she opened her heart. And how did she open her heart? She opened her mouth. She opened her mouth and she started talking to her husband. And a lot of times, Danielle, just speaking to somebody brings healing. And we sometimes get so caught up. But I get it. I'm a coach. I'm a mindset coach too. I train on mindset and success and leadership. But we forget about our soul. And our soul is our intellect, our emotions, our feelings. We forget about that. And what happens is we focus so much on the mind that we forget about the soul. Well, it doesn't help you to have an awesome mindset if your soul is tortured and beaten up. So by you talking to your husband and started healing your soul, and because I was guilty of this, right? I would suppress the anger that I had as a young kid towards my dad. So since I didn't really talk about it, I was always angry. I went from 0 to 100, right? So what you're saying is awesome. So you're talking to your husband, you confess that you were depressed, and thank you for being honest, because I think too many of us, somebody hearing this podcast right now is depressed and feeling the way you felt. And, there's a simple solution. Just go to someone you can trust. Maybe you don't have a spouse, maybe you don't have a wife or a husband, but go to somebody that you can talk to and just open your mouth. And as you start to open your mouth, it's going to bring healing, like Danielle said. And what happened after that, Danielle?
It was little things. I think there, I believe God just started putting people into my life and letting me see what was actually in front of me. So I always talk about living proactive, and I think I started living proactive. I started doing the daily mindset. I started, as I was working with my clients, I was actually working with myself, using all of these tools on myself, not just accomplishing and acquiring the knowledge. I actually started applying the knowledge to myself. And then the biggest thing is I realized that this is my journey. I will, there's no finish line for me. And I think in the beginning I thought, okay, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be physically healed. I'm going to forget all this pain, and I'm going to have this aha, moment. And when I realized, that moment will happen when I go meet, when I'm in heaven. That is when that moment's going to happen. I'm going to spend the rest of my life, fighting my triggers, trying to constantly heal my soul, constantly, because with every day, so there's something new. There's, and then constantly living in love, because sometimes, man, that genetic being of me from where I come from, way, way, way back, my Italian heritage, that pops up. And I'm a big believer that it is embedded in you, and you have to recognize that stuff.
You're like, blame that one on my great, great, great grandma.
Seriously, that's why we left Italy.
So let me ask you this, because I see you now and you seem pretty confident. You seem pretty, like I said, I love your energy. In what area in your life did you come back with even more confidence that you didn't even realize that you could, that like you came back and you're like, wow, like I was never really confident in this area, but now I have more confidence in this area because of what I went through?
It's probably the ability to speak, because I'm actually in my core a very quiet person. It's not in my my husband's very outgoing. He's always been very outgoing. The life of the party when he walks into a room, right? Everybody knows him. Just a purest hearted man. For me, I'm more like the one on the outside that wants to just watch and observe and be quiet, not really be seen. That has been the biggest change in me. I still get uncomfortable. I still get nervous. I still sometimes after I'm done speaking, I'm like, what did you even say? Did it even make sense?
I've had those moments.
It happens a lot. But I realized that this is, God said you're not done yet. Your story is not over. And for me to sit there and in my insecurities and in my natural ability, want to be quiet, not say my opinion, not talk my heart, not talk about, the pain that I feel or the success that I feel, I'm doing a disservice. I learn by stories. So how dare I not give stories for others to learn by?
Yes. And how did that, and I love that, because so many times we don't realize that when we gain confidence in an area of our lives, that it actually transcends into other areas. And we walk in with a new confidence that we never even knew we had, is because we found competency in another area of our lives. And maybe it's that you're getting more fit, right? Maybe you're losing weight and those pants fit you better, for me. And it's like, you feel better about yourself. So that confidence, it transcends into a different area of your life. Did you see, once you started gaining confidence in speaking, how it transcended into a different area of your life?
Definitely. It gave me the confidence of the new me. I let the old Dani Rocco die. And I was okay with that because I was holding on for a very long time to that
I love
person.
that. Say that again. What'd you do? What'd you have to let die?
I had to let the old Dani Rocco die and embrace this new me. And it's
That's
given me the ability to lead with love, not just talk it.
Dani, that's so powerful. What you just said. So many of us want a new life. We want that new life, but we don't want to die to the old one.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants the new car, the new house, that business. They want to earn 100,000 if you never earned it. They want to earn that first million if you never earned it. Well, that new area of your life that you want to obtain, that new frequency that you have to go and reach now, was going to cost you your old frequency. And we don't realize that.
Yeah.
And I had to die to self, and it stunk. It hurt. I cried. I have a quote that I say that I posted like almost 2 years ago. You're not a true entrepreneur till you've been in the restroom crying and you were 99.9% sure that you were going to give up and quit. But you kept going. I've been there with tears. That's awesome. So let's do a shift. So you found your confidence, and you have an amazing show too. And I love that because that tells me that you're consistent. And what does consistency mean to Danielle Rocco, to Dani?
Consistency is the ability to show up whether you think you've mastered it or not. Because you're never going to master something if you don't consistently do it. And so many times people want to just hide. Well, what if I sound stupid? Well, let me tell you, I sound stupid like probably 98% of the time. Like it's all in the perception of what it is. But if you're not doing it, whatever it is, you're never going to be a master at anything.
I love what you said. Say that again. Say that first opening line that you said. I love that quote. I want them. They need to write this down. This stuff is good.
I gotta write down what I say.
So I don't want to butcher it, but you said something like consistency is showing up every time, even when you're not a master or something. You said something to that extent. Say that again.
Yeah. Okay. You've said it probably just as well as I'll re-say it, but consistency is showing up every day, even though you're not a master at it.
I love that.
Something like that.
That's powerful. I think too many of us, we want to be the master before we're consistent, don't we?
Yes. God, it would be so amazing to just like wake up and be like this, this brilliant speaker, or, the person that can solve world problems. But we have to do a lot of falling before we get there.
Yeah, everybody wants to. I think of when you said that, I thought of Yoda, right, from Star Wars. Everybody wants to be Yoda, the Jedi, but they don't want to go through the Jedi training. And you have to go through that training to be great, to be that champion, to be that master. Mm-hmm. So, what was the hardest part in finding your consistency, right? Because apparently, you're being transparent with us, and I thank you for for being authentic with us here on the show today. What did you have to do to become that master of what you wanted to be? Tell us some things that you do, because you didn't become who you are today. You actually rebuilt who you are. Your identity is new. You're a new and improved 2020 version that's on fire. This passion that I love about you. What were two things that you were consistent in that really helped you become that master in that new life that you created for yourself? Because I believe this, too many of us, our old life is an old season, and we never let go of that old season of our lives, and it keeps us from being who God created us to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was a couple of things. One was because I'm married. But this could go for anybody, a family member, whatever. My husband also he was holding on to the old me, right? So for me to get to where I am now, I had to accept that I had to be so confident that I was not going back there, that I could stand up and say to him that I know you don't like this, but I have to do this. Whether that means we're not together or not anymore, I can't go back because there's nothing to go back to. Right. So that was a huge piece, which gave me more, built on my confidence, but it was very scary because he could have said, "See you later, alligator." So there was that part. And repeat your question because I got stuck on that.
No, well, you became that. I mean, I'm glad you said that part because you had to. It reminds me of, I was with a client yesterday and we were doing a coaching session and we were going over some stuff. And I was like, you're saying it like you don't mean it. So she said it again. And really that power came out when she said it. She finally like roared it out. And that's what you're saying. Sometimes you have to roar out your confidence. You have to roar out that empowerment that you have within yourself. Because if you hold it in, it's like sometimes you just, believe me, when I say my affirmations in the morning, I'm yelling. I'm like, Daniel, I love you, Daniel Gomez, because you never give up. Daniel, you're the best. I mean, I'm looking in that mirror and I'm yelling. Sometimes, one time, my neighbor even wanted to call the cop on me because they thought I was fighting with my wife. True story. But I believe that you have to roar it out. You have to roar out that confidence, and that creates the consistency. So the question that I asked you was, once you found your confidence and you were building on mastering yourself, what were two things that you did to be consistent that help you to master who you are now become?
Okay.
Actually, you're still becoming that person.
Yes. So I know why I had to say that, because then the next phase was I had to drop my ego, which still creeps up all the time, but I had to drop my ego and realize that I am going to say yes to opportunities, even though I know nothing about them, because I was before, right? 24 years in a business, could run it in and out of consciousness. Now I'm a new person. I have no idea where I'm going. I have to stand up for this new person with my family, and my loved ones who are trying to keep me back to the old Dani, and I want to be the new one. And so when an opportunity came, I said yes. I took it as God was leading me, and I didn't try to control it. I was like, okay, that's what led me into health coaching in the beginning, to realize that was not what I wanted to do. So instead of thinking, well, you failed at it, Dani, I just shifted with where it went. That's how I ended up coaching, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. The shift happened and I accepted it and said, okay, God, I'm going to follow your path. And then from there led me into where I am now, into the military. And from the documentary, I'm like, see, if you can't see, I'm very visual. I'm making a circle with me, my arms.
I thought you were exercising there. The audience can't see you, but I can see you.
It's like this full circle. And then from the documentary and working on the military families, it led me into seeing that where I am right now in this moment, my full service is helping with their with life insurance, which sounds totally off concept, but so many people want to protect their family, but they don't know where to begin and they're not. And it scares them. So who better than just someone who's open and transparent to, kind of guide the way. But it was basically, to answer your question, that was long-winded and I apologize, was
no, I love it.
I had to let God lead me and put my ego aside and say, you're not failing because you're taking a different path. You have learned, and without one of those paths, I would not be here, because I wouldn't know the people I know. I wouldn't have met the people I've met. The opportunities wouldn't have opened. I had to go through all of those things.
So what comes to mind by you saying that? I hear it. I see it so perfectly, is that you said yes to opportunities. And I love that quote from Zig Ziglar that says, success is when opportunity meets preparation. And you had these new opportunities coming into your life. And the consistency was in the fact that you said yes over and over and over. And how many of us, we want that breakthrough. We want that new spark in our life. We want that new experience in our life. We want that new job. We want that new career. We want that new relationship. We want that new life, that new body. But we keep saying no and no to the opportunities that come before us, because we say, I'm not good enough. I can't afford it. Nah, that's not who I am. Instead of saying yes consistently, like you just said, you said yes to things. And I think that's where people mess up, is because they want to be a master of everything before they say yes to something. And it doesn't work that way. Believe me, when I first started thinking about doing my show, I was like, man, I need to practice a little bit more. Because not anybody, but for me, speaking on stages, I love it. It comes naturally, boom, boom, boom. But speaking to a camera and being in front of a camera and a mic and just not moving around. And it's a different world. And it took practice. And I stunk when I first started practicing because it wasn't who I was, but I had to learn how to master it. And even though I felt uncomfortable, it's just a position of sitting down for an hour is like, man, this doesn't feel good. But I said yes to the opportunity. And that's what I heard you say, Dani, is no matter if it was executive coaching, if it was this other thing, you said yes to it. And I love that about you. So as you were saying yes, and you were being consistent, what convictions did you develop within yourself that you didn't even realize you had?
Oh, I realized that actually I can accomplish a lot just myself, not having, having the family business and working your way up to it, but it was your family business. So you had it, I was there since I was 18 years old. And even though I lived on my own since I was 16, there's something different when you can for me, it was making money on my own from my brain, from just me, myself. No one giving me the clients, no one, saying, oh, I know someone. Now, of course, as you build your business, you get referrals and things like that. But from scratch, I did something from scratch that I was like, shoot, I can do this. I can make a change. Just me, just one little person, even if it's for one other person.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, and we need those little wins. We need to celebrate those wins more and more. And it sounds like it wasn't a handout like maybe you got before. It was something that, hey, I accomplished this, and it was from work, but I did it. So I love that. I love that.
I have to tell you, the biggest thing is that a lot of people, and I know this because people would tell me all the time during this journey, and I'll tell you this journey from my family business to now has only been like 2 years, a little over 2 years. So I did all of this within 2 years. They would say to me, you're going to go do that by yourself. You're going to get on a plane and go there by yourself. I'm like, well, if I'm not going to do it, who is going to do it? I can't wait for everybody else to join in on me. So I did a lot of this all by myself, scared out of my mind, walking into the room and just head held high, shoulders back. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody knows what's going on inside this brain of mine. So I am just going to be smile and be nice to everybody. And it worked.
Look at where it got you to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's do a little shift here. I always see that. I mentioned it when we started the show. I always see that American flag. So I want you to tell our audience, you do a lot of great things, and I don't know exactly in detail what you do 100%, so I don't want to butcher it. So what does the American flag mean? Because you have it in all your shows, and it means a lot to you. So talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, and then the cause that you support.
Sure. So, we've always been a very patriotic family. We ran from Italy back in the Mussolini days. That's a whole other story. So since my grandfather he was born in Italy, he instilled that you need to be very grateful for what we have right now. So it's always been there in my upbringing. And then my cousin served right when 9/11. He joined right out of high school. It was at the beginning of that war. And then my son joined. He is a Marine. He's a veteran now, but he's a Marine. And becoming a mom of a Marine changes you. Like, I thought I was patriotic before, but let me tell you, when this mama bear came out, I was like beyond my mind. And I watched his transition. I watched his struggle. I listened to him talk about what it was like. He didn't always talk, so this is over years and years, of his buddies and what they were going through and stuff like that. And that's where my commitment came from. I said, if I'm just one person with one son, and think of every other mother out there, think of every wife out there, every husband out there, and it just hit home. It hit home really, really, really hard. And that's why I've dedicated my life. So now it's kind of switched up a little bit of what I do, just for multiple reasons, because I say yes and I just let God lead me. But So I do resource panels. I bring education. I bring value. I let people know, not just active military and veterans, but the community in general. What is out there? What is the reality that's going on? How can we as a society work together, right? How can you see the things? Because I can tell you, my TBI came from a different reason. It didn't come from war, but didn't come from being in the military. But I have TBI, and I talk to the guys that have it. It's the same exact thing. The feelings, the emotion, the craziness, the rage you feel, all of those things that come with it. So I've dedicated my life basically to doing that. And I do it through resource panels and a private group. And then of course people just message me.
Well, I love that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because you said a word that radiated with me, right? It just kind of was a trigger in is together. And right now, more than ever, together is going to cause America to win. Because America used to be great. But after seeing a lot of what's going on, it's just everybody's right now in reactive mode. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see innocent people getting victimized. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, where you're from. The bottom line is we're all people. And one person, one race, one ethnic group can't do it. But together as a country, united, we can. And I saw a video today that, well, what you're saying just made me radiant. It was an amazing video of a black man, and he was 32 years old, and he was holding back. The gentleman was like 45, another black gentleman, and he goes, the older gentleman was like, man, we need to change this. And the 32-year-old told him, well, what are you going to do differently? Well, no, we got to just stand up. And his 16-year-old son was there. And it was awesome, because the 32-year-old got the 16-year-old son, and it wasn't even his son. It was, they were just there, like, just, I guess, marching or whatever they were doing yesterday or whenever the video was taken. He goes, do you see this? We're doing it wrong. Violence is not the answer. You need to figure out a way to do it better. That's what you need to do, because the way your dad's doing it is wrong. The way I'm doing it, I'm not doing something right, because look at what we're doing. We're burning down cars for what? What is it? And we don't realize when we have that anger, when we have that strife, it creates it. It creates more of it. And it's sad, and no one has all the answers, but I will tell you this, is that when we can forgive and really see what's going on, because right now this whole country is in reactive mode. We're reacting to everything. Think about it. A couple of months ago, we were freaking out about the pandemic, coronavirus, and today you don't even see coronavirus in the news. Now all you hear is what happened to that gentleman in Minneapolis, unfortunately. And now everybody's fighting, and it's like, and the news is blowing it up. We need to stop watching the news and feeding on this negativity, because it's bringing a spirit of division to a country that I love, that you love. And the word that's going to make this country great again is a word that you said, together. And this is the same way that 32-year-old gentleman said, was when he told that 16-year-old, is we need to find a better way. We need to find a better way, because having riots, think about it. Just think of if Martin Luther King was here, or Gandhi. They had great leadership skills, but they weren't violent. They just had this aura about them. And that's what we need. We need somebody to rise up right now to lead us, not with words, but by example. And I think that's what our country needs right now, is somebody besides somebody in no political people am I saying, but somebody to stand up and say, hey, together we can overcome this. Together our nation will be great again. So thank you for saying that awesome word, Dani. That was beautiful.
You are welcome. I have to speak on that, because it's when I'm listening and I'm hearing so much, and I actually talked about it a little today, it's just a repetitive cycle. Whether you're talking about what's going on with the protests and the riots, or you're talking about being an entrepreneur. If you don't have a path of what you're trying to achieve, you will create mass chaos and you will live in uncertainty and anger, and it will flourish. So if, just like the story that you said, if you're protesting or you're speaking out, what are you trying to achieve? Just getting your word out there? Well, think of it in your business. What are you trying to achieve? If you're just speaking it and you don't have a plan of action and you're just saying what's going to happen, nothing's going to happen. If you say how much you love your wife, but you do absolutely no action that's according to that, what happens? Absolutely nothing. So it's this repetitive, mindset that we've had, and we're just circulating it like sheep through every aspect of our life, because every aspect of our life is connected, and we have this baseline that America is great. If it wasn't great, let me tell you, it would have been collapsed by now. It would be 500 times worse. So the foundation's there. And I think as a whole, we have to just say, well, what are you trying to achieve? Okay, let's work together to achieve that. But we're not. We're just saying like this life matters or that life matters. Well, frankly, we're all human beings. So it all matters. So how can I help you? How can I, as Dani Rocco, help what you're trying to achieve? But if you can't tell me what you're trying to achieve, if you're just angry, then there's no achievement, no forward movement. Because any sorts of violence, it happens all the time, is unjust and it is angry and it creates fire inside anybody. When you hear a violent story, when you hear children being beaten, when you hear, all of these different things, doesn't it create anger? And you want to do something, right? So that's kind of where we're
For sure.
at. But you don't hear, okay, what action steps are you thinking? Whether they work or not, it doesn't matter. You're moving forward. And with your mind, and then you have someone else's mind, things start to happen. Just like when you're building a business, just like when you're developing a relationship, just like when you're developing yourself. But right now, it's blame and anger, blame and anger.
Yes.
So we will create more blame and anger. And we have to be very careful about what we speak. That's why you'll never hear me speak black, white, red, or I won't, because I don't see it that way. I refuse to see it that way.
We're all human beings.
Person. You have a bad behavior, and where there's love, there will always be evil. There will always be hatred. You cannot have one without the other. And we have to accept that. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean we promote that, but you have to accept it. And once you can accept it, you can start making changes, and it'll become less and less and less and less.
Yeah, because we're all human. At the end of the day, whether you're brown like me or white like you, we're all human beings, and the main thing is we're all God's creation. Mm-hmm. And we were all created to help each other. Even the Bible says, right, love the neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And I think
sorry, go ahead.
So when we have more love is the answer. Like, not a love of expectation, but a love of agape love, of just giving with no expectation of receiving anything back, and just really saying, hey, because you know what? Because God loves the Indians, God loves the Chinese, God loves everybody. We're all God's people, and sometimes we forget that. So
yeah, we do. And so when you look at people's soul, and that's why I choose not to use those. When I'm talking about people, they're just a person. I'll use your name, right? But
I like your name too, though.
But I think that's part of healing.
Yeah. So as we come towards the end, I like to find out. Dani is amazing. Dani Rocco, she's a rock star in my book. What makes her distinctive? What makes Dani Rocco distinctive?
I think it's just maybe my quirkiness, my eclecticness, that I've accepted that there's only one me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the love, the evil, all of that. But what makes me distinctive is exactly that. You will get what you see. I misspell words I lose my train of thought. And I've just learned to embrace this quirky blonde chick that I am.
Did you say quirky or corky?
Probably both. I don't know.
And how has that benefited you?
I don't know if it's benefited me or not. But it's benefited my soul, where I can say, I know I screw up and I'm okay with it. I'm not going to try to be perfect. It's actually released a lot of pressure off of me.
Well, I'll say I'm going to disagree with you because I think it's benefited you. Because I think when I hear like quirky, I think of fun, right? Like, hey, like we're spontaneous. I don't care if we messed up. And those are the people that I love to hang around with, those quirky ones, because it's like they're not going to be too stuffy. One thing that I can't stand is stuffy people. Man, that drives me crazy. Because those stuffy people are the ones that are most insecure. So when I hear somebody say quirky, that word, right? I think of somebody that, man, we're going to go have dinner. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to go somewhere and watch a football game. And it's going to be fun. And so I would say that it's definitely benefited you a lot. So I love to ask my guests to leave us with a word of wisdom before we close out the show. So as we're nearing the end, I want you to leave a impression on the audience and tell them a word of wisdom that has helped you, whether it's been in business, has been in life, wherever it's been at. Give us that word of wisdom.
It is, of course, it's not what my dog's saying in the background. That has nothing to do with it. But I live by this. I have it tattooed on my body, and it is two things, actually. There are two words of wisdom, and they're both on my body. One is, God gave me you. And the other one is, this is not how your story will end.
God gave me you, and this is not how your story will end. We have the power to write any ending that we want, ladies and gentlemen. And the question is, as you're listening to the end of this podcast, what choice are you going to make? What ending are you going to write? Because the reality is you're the author, you're the poet, you're the artist painting that picture of your life. So what ending do you want to write? Because you have the power to do it. Dani, this has been an amazing show. Thank you so much for being on with us. And man, if somebody wants to connect with you, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where do they find the amazing, sizzling, passionate Dani Rocco?
The easiest is probably my website, because then you can click on any button and get to any, social media platform that suits your fancy, one or all, it doesn't matter, but I'll spell it because I'm a girl and no one ever spells a girl Dani right. It's true. DaniRocco.com.
That was DaniRocco.com, DaniRocco.com. And then, of course, we'll have her information on the show notes. So what an amazing guest today, man. I'm just excited. Until next time, that's a wrap for our show. We'll see you next week. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.